Greetings adventurers, and welcome to the Loot Goblin Marketplace. What is a murder hobo? It's simple really. If you find yourself in a group of adventurers that stab first and ask questions never, chances are high that at least a few of them are murder hobos. Not to worry though, a few bloodthirsty party members isn't really a cause for concern at the game table. As long as they don't cause trouble within the city gates, most kingdoms will look the other way as long as the party gets results. Violence at the game table is a pretty common occurrence, so the red flags only begin when people stop committing violence just for laughs or loot. If someone at the table starts to go into graphic detail about how they're slaying these NPCs, then maybe it's time for a little bit of concern. No need to excuse yourself from the table just yet, but maybe it's time to start identifying the nearest exit, just in case. But before I go any further, I wanted to give D&D Dice a shout out, my favorite dice shop and where half of my paycheck goes to every month. They've got a lot of options, including their original 11-piece dice sets that they call the King of Crits series. Be sure to use the code LootGoblin to support the channel at dnddice.com, or you can just click the link down in that video description and it'll be added when you check out with your favorite dice. As an edgelord myself, my favorite collections are the Plague Doctor and Blood Hunter 11-piece sets, which I use alongside their Tomb of the Lich dice tower. Anyways, back to the video. Today's treasure goes by the name Dude Goes from Vaguely Murder Hobo to Actual Serial Killer Vibes. Once upon a time when I was studying abroad in college, I joined my new school's tabletop society. I'd been playing D&D and Pathfinder for nearly a decade, so I thought this would be a good way to make friends. I wasn't the only girl in the club, but there certainly weren't a lot of us, and I ended up being the only girl in the regular group I played with. Most of the dudes were your stereotypical awkward nerd type, but they were good guys. And after we started playing and they saw I knew what I was doing, they accepted me as one of them. The club met 3 times a week, and we played TTRPGs until the wee hours of the morning. I still have great memories of that year, and the people I hung out with. And then there's that guy. That guy played a Goblin alchemist. There was a lot of us at the table, so things could get pretty chaotic pretty fast. But we still managed to build bonds between our characters. That guy at first was really friendly and outgoing, and his characters were really funny. The Goblin alchemist especially would always turn the session on its head, which was fine because none of us were taking it that serious anyway. He attached himself to my fighter character pretty quickly. I was cool with that, because Alchemist players seemed chill and had a comfortable dynamic with the group. I met with these guys 3 days a week for months. We really got to know each other. We even started to hang out outside of club meetings, because I was a foreigner and he offered to show me around the city. I never felt weird or awkward around him until one day, 3 months before I'm set to fly home, that guy confesses that he had feelings for me and that he wanted to be in a relationship. You need to know, reader, for context, I am one of the most oblivious people on the planet. Any and all signals that this was coming went totally over my head. I was blindsided and apologetic because I didn't feel the same way. I tried to let him down easily. I told him that I thought he was a great person, but I wasn't really looking for a relationship, especially since I was going to be flying back to my home country in a pretty short time. It didn't make sense for me to start something that I knew would have to stop. He was upset, which I understood, and I told him I valued our friendship and offered to give him space. He said, no, it's okay. Obviously he'd need some time, but he didn't want to make me feel like I couldn't hang out with our other friends. It would be fine. And to the surprise of no one, the next line reads, "It was not fine." At first, club meetings were a little awkward, because his character wasn't buddying up to mine like he usually did. I figured that would happen, and I wasn't surprised by it, so I tried to go on like normal. Over time, Alchemist's player became more animated again, and started getting back into our old shenanigans of sowing Pathfinder chaos. And then, things started to get uncomfy. My character rescued a young elf from a bad situation, and the DM allowed me to bring the elf along sort of as my sidekick. Alchemist insisted on interacting with the elf as well, treating him very affectionately, and insisting that his character and mine were co-parenting the NPC. No one else seemed to take this very seriously, so I didn't either. In-game relationships don't reflect real-life ones after all. Yeah, I don't know about that, buddy. But then, Alchemist started getting very possessive of my character, and the player started texting me late at night on days we weren't even playing. He'd say he missed me, or talk about how sad he was that I didn't want to date him, and how badly it was affecting his mental health. I was smart enough to know that he was trying to guilt me into going out with him, but apparently too stupid to just cut him out of my life. Regardless, I didn't bite, and told him if his mental health was really that bad, that he should speak to a therapist or a counselor. Our school even had some on staff, but that wasn't the answer he wanted. I feel like I've seen this situation countless times. It's why I'm always hesitant to allow in-game romance. If you have one person who is into it for the roleplay purpose, and another person that's into it because they think maybe it's like an in to get into a real-life relationship, it always ends in disaster. I'm sure there's tables out there that can handle platonic out-of-game people playing lovers in-game. I just haven't seen it work out at my table, and it's not really how I like to spend my roleplay time, so I like to focus on other aspects. Obviously here it hasn't worked either, so let's see how the next session goes. At club meetings, I tried to stay casual because I didn't want to drag all the other guys in the group in on the drama. We were all adults. We could be friendly and mature around each other, right? As far as I knew, none of them were aware of what that guy was saying to me behind the scenes. Then, one fateful night, the paradigm was shifted. Another guy in the group, we'll call him Rogue, came over to our table before the game started when everyone was just chatting and goofing off. Rogue was probably one of the only humans more blind to nonverbal cues than I was. One of his characters was literally poisoned by another member of the party, who poured the poison in his drink right in front of him, but the player was playing a phone game at the time and wasn't paying attention. Anyway, Rogue comes over to the table and slides right on up to Alchemist and says, just loud enough for all of us to hear, "Hey, I heard you got a crush on a redhead in the club." The table went dead silent. There was only 2 redheads in the club, one of which was of course me. To be fair, the only other one was another very sweet, very pretty girl who it could have been. I could tell from the blissfully unaware look on Rogue's face that his head was empty of all thoughts and implications of what he just said. However, I could tell that every other one of the guys present knew exactly who Alchemist had a crush on. I could also tell that none of them knew I was aware of it. It was a painfully awkward and in a strange way funny moment. Alchemist somehow managed to not answer Rogue's question, and everyone else rushed to start the game, so they had an excuse not to talk about it. But somehow, that moment cracked open Pandora's box of cringy behavior. That guy's possessiveness started to bleed out of character. While that guy was still chipper and outgoing to everyone else, there was now a sharper edge to his jokes. He started being a dick to the other guys I was friends with, but he always played it off like it was a joke. The texts about how I was ruining his life by not dating him were still coming fast and strong. Eventually, even my idiotic self had had enough. I told him firmly that I was never going to be in a relationship with him, and his behavior made it so that I didn't even want to remain friends with him. Should I have continued going back to games with him after that? No, probably not. But the siren song of friendship and TTRPGs was too strong. The breaking point came one literal dark and stormy night. We were taking a pizza break from the game and all just goofing off. I was talking to the Orc Barbarian, I think commiserating that he would have to ride his bike home after this in the rain. I made some joke, I don't remember what, but that guy's loud and manic laughter will be forever imprinted on my brain. I legitimately didn't recognize him when I looked at his face. His smile was so weird, and his eyes were so bugged out, still laughing like it was a joke. He said that I would probably like him more if he skinned Barbarian alive and wore him like a skin suit. Okay, hold on, let's pause for a moment. My brain thought it was about the character. No, this man's talking about the player. He's having a full Joker moment, laughing maniacally, having a breakdown in the middle of this pizza party. Yeah, I'd be looking for the door really quick. How do you even react to this? I did not know what to say to that. I don't think anyone knew what to say to that. Rogue, bless him, looked up from his phone and asked if there was any pizza left. I know it wasn't on purpose, but honestly, playing dumb and moving on probably was the play. So good job, Rogue. That night, I noped out of the game early and was looking over my shoulder the whole bus ride back to the dorm. I blocked that guy's number and told the DM I was not coming back to any game he was playing in. The DM said, yeah, that's fair. Thankfully for me, that guy stopped coming around to club meetings as much after that. My game nights went from 3 to 2 a week, which was unfortunate, but not long after the incident, the school year ended and I flew back home. Over time, I lost touch with my friends from the tabletop club, but thankfully, last I heard, no one had been turned into a skin suit. Sad to say, this isn't the last time something like this would happen to me, but it was by far the most deranged. Don't get me wrong, I've read stories where people have had crushes and it's turned out awkward, but man, the escalation on this one is insane. That joke was so far out there that I don't even know in-game if that would have landed, even if the barbarian character was playing something like a catfolk instead of an orc. When I first read the title, I didn't think he was gonna live up to like a serial killer vibe. I thought maybe he was being a little hyperbolic, but honestly, after reading it, I kinda do agree. I'd love to hear from everyone what their thoughts are. Would you have gone back to this campaign? I'm not sure if I would. I get it's a reliable group, but I honestly didn't see anyone make efforts to resolve this issue. They're just kinda hoping it vanishes. I feel like the club could have done a better job. If you liked the video, make sure to hype it and subscribe to become a member if you haven't already. And as always, I hope to see you in the next video. Farewell for now.